guys, my name's Leah Grant. Welcome to Pure Movement. This is your serving of fitness. Today we're going to focus on effective strength training exercises as I see them from a Pilates realm. So when I work with clients, some of my biggest focus is to help reverse chronic positions, whether postural or in regards to strength training, especially conditioning, helping to kind of reverse whatever behavior you're doing consistently, such as running, bicycling, things like that. So we're going to focus a lot on sort of upper back strength, lateral hip strength, and some finding middle or neutral alignment. So let's go ahead and get started. Props that we're going to need today are a looped TheraBand of your choice. Mine happens to be a heavy. And then your choice of hand weights or wrist weights. I have wrist weights today and they are 2 pounds. So we'll go ahead. I'm going to get these out of the bag, ready to go. And we're going to start looking first at some neutral alignment, breathing work down on our backs. So lay all the way down. I'm going to take just a little bit of a stretch here. Whew. Circling the hands all the way down. When we get off center or out of alignment, the mass of the rib cage and the mass of the pelvis can kind of shift into different planes and sort of put pressure on our low back and our hips. And so before we start to really strength train, I want to think about our body in space. So I'm feeling the weight of the head, the spread of the rib cage, the weight of the pelvis. I'm standing into my feet. And I'm just going to rock the pelvis right to left. Think of this kind of like a salsa move. I'm sort of dancing, pushing my pelvis forward and back. Then maybe we relax that. We move into our tuck and tilt. Here I'm turning the wheel of the pelvis towards me and then away. Tuck and tilt. So I feel the space below me start to flatten a little bit, and then as I relax the pelvis, I feel that curvature come back ever so slightly. That's sort of an important distinction, sort of knowing where the curvature of your low back lives. Let's relax the pelvis to what feels like a nice balance in between all of those positions. This is your neutral. So you should feel weight of the head, spread of the rib cage, weight of the pelvis. You should have negative space at the back of the cervical spine and ideally underneath the navel at the lumbar spine. Notice if that curvature is quite high. So that tells you a little bit about your alignment. We're going to look at spinal articulation, standing gently down into the feet. Turn the wheel of your pelvis towards you. Follow that sensation as you start to bring the hips up. Notice that we don't want to move into a big extension. I could get a lot bigger here, but this feels like I'm in my neck and all I'm doing is like squishing a penny between my cheeks. So I want to bring it back a little bit. I want to feel like I'm spread through my shoulders. My arms are long. I'm standing in parallel and I feel it more exclusively right here at the hamstrings, which is really important for balanced muscle development. Right? We want to make sure that we're strengthening both the back, front, sides, and inside of our thighs. Little breath of air. As you lay the spine down, try to go through the mass of the rib cage before you feel the space of your low back. Then feel the spread of the sacrum and then let the pelvis relax. Let's do that a couple more times. Turning the pelvis, articulating the spine up. Watch the overextension. I think here that I'm elongating the hips, especially if you sit a lot during the day, right? Open up the hip creases, laying the spine down nice and long. Let's do that twice more. Nice fluid movement. Go ahead, keeping those legs as best you can through your parallel position. We're tapping into what I think of as the glute fold, or the smile of your seat, right? This little lift of the peach. I'm right there where the hamstring feeds into my glutes. Last time, we're going to lift up into that bridge position. We're going to tap into our obliques just a little bit here. So I want to drop this right hip down as though I'm closing the hip crease. Then I'm going to use my obliques and my hamstring to press and open it back up. Left, lift, tap. Notice my knees are still pointing straight. Really important here. Notice my knees are still pointing straight. Good. I don't really want to side swipe, right to left. I want to think that I am elongating the hips open and the obliques and hamstrings flexing, strengthening that diagonal sling. Let's do 5, 4, 3, last 2. It's the glute fold that presses the hips open. Hold it there and lay it all the way down nice and long. Now relax the pelvis. Find whatever feels like a nice neutral for you. We're going to move into our chest lift. Let's reach the arms up towards the ceiling. And I'm going to crisscross my arms over my body, kind of like I'm just holding on to my shoulders because I don't want my shoulders to light up, not yet. I really want to find the middle of my body first. Taking a nice easy inhale here. As you exhale, let's press the elbows down towards the rib cage in order to lift the head, neck, and chest. And I'm going to look across my knees. Now in this position, you may have tucked the pelvis and sort of swooped into the low back. I want you to stay lifted, but try to relax the wheel of your pelvis. And notice if it feels like you're falling backwards, right? Use your exhale, your internal obliques, to curl up, keeping your pelvis in neutral. Tap it back. Let's do that again. We're going to inhale to double check our pelvis is soft. Exhale to close the rib cage. And then tap it back. So as you exhale, lift. Notice that the pelvis and the low back do not change place. The rib cage closes, and that's what picks you up. Last one. Double check your pelvis. Exhale, and tap it back. Right, now let's make a basket with our hands. Bring our hands behind our head, supporting the head and neck. Same thing, just a slightly different shoulder connection. As you exhale, lift head, neck, chest. Your head is fully supported in your hands. Your shoulders are on your back. Double check your pelvis is in neutral. Exhale, lift a little higher. Tap it back. Exhale, lift. Hold. Inhaling at the top. Exhaling. Then tap it back. And last 2. Inhale to hold. Exhale to close the rib cage. Tap it back. Last time. Exhale, lift. Inhale to hold. Exhale to close the rib cage. And tap it back. Stay here. Adding on further still. One leg to tabletop. Other one to meet it. Pelvis is still in neutral. Exhale to lift. Hold. Double check your pelvis is in neutral. Exhale to lift a little higher. Woo! Tap it back. It's all the tremble right there in the rib wall. Last 2. Exhale. Inhale to soften. Exhale to close the rib cage. It's the internal obliques. Last one. I'm starting to feel it. I'm burning. And tap it back. Woo! Almost there. Ready? Adding on further still. Arms are long beside you. Take a little breath of air. As you exhale, push the fingertips towards the far side of the room, lifting head, neck, and chest, reaching the legs to your 45 degrees. Your pelvis is still in neutral. Exhale, close the rib cage. That's what picks you up. And tap it back. Exhale, lift. We hold at the top. Inhale. Exhale, close. And tap it back. Last 2. Exhale, lift. Reach. Soften the pelvis. Exhale, close the rib cage. And then tap it back. Finishing that last one. Exhale, lift. Inhale, wide to the ribs. Exhale, close. And then pump the arms. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, bend. Whoa. Oh, so hard to breathe during that process. If you felt like you were running out of air, you were moving in the right direction. So hard to find that full belly breath. Okay, I'm going to roll myself up. Shake it out. Let's go ahead and take it into our hips. So I'm going to go ahead and grab onto the TheraBand, the looped TheraBand. Your weight, your choice, however you want to do it. Okay, so I'm going to turn to face towards you. Today I'm going to prop myself up onto my elbow. This is going to be just a little bit more shoulder work for you. If that's not for you, just lay down onto the back, or excuse me, onto your side. Pelvis is in neutral. We're just on our side now. So think about that kind of first warm-up. Shoulder blade is pushing down, collarbones are wide. I'm going to put my hand onto my hip here to help me figure out sort of where that pelvis is living. So I'm going to keep the rib cage and the pelvis together. That's the ab work we just finished. So there's a little burn there still. And then just that top leg is going to go into the resistance band. Clamshells. It's pretty simple, but it is effective. Right? Now the thicker the resistance band or the heavier the resistance band, the more work it's going to be. You could also do double the reps. Right? If you don't have such a heavy resistance band, just keep doing this longer. Keeping that pelvis underneath you. Make sure that you don't feel it in your low back. I'm going to stay lifted. I'm going to keep that pelvis and rib cage together. And this glute over here is what's going to press into the TheraBand. My heels are squeezing. Sometimes keeping the heels talking helps me close that loop of energy so I really feel it in the muscle tissue, which is my left glute side of the hip that I want to focus on. Last 4, 3, 2, and 1. Tap it down. We're going still lift and lower. Now the whole leg is just opening and closing. Right? So I took away my feet. So it's going to be more variety, more opportunity here, I guess, to get squirrely. More chances to get squirrely. So try to hold the pelvis still, keeping the rib cage and the pelvis closed. Notice that we are still pushing energy down into that elbow to stay lifted. I'm going to lift it up, I'm going to hold it there, and then I'm going to pulse. And again, notice it's not the pelvis or the low back that's changing place. It's fire right here, pressing up into that TheraBand. Whew. The side of your body is long, the shoulder is out of your ear, making it really tight, really effective into the area exactly that we want. Stay lifted and tap it down. Oh, I'm going to pop that booty back for a minute. Okay, slide the TheraBand down. Now I am going to lay all the way down into my side. I'm going to make a pillow with my bicep. My legs are going to kick forward in space just a little bit. Lateral hip still. I'm working kind of both legs now. So that right leg is going to stay down. Left hand I'm going to place onto the mat. Right now, it's very easy here. Once I get farther away from my middle, to kind of fall out of my neutral pelvis again. So I'm going to think a little bit of the rib cage and the pelvis staying stacked, my hips staying open, and notice if that leg is going to move into an external rotation. I would like it in parallel. So my knees, I'm going to try to point towards you. So I'm using this hip and glute again back here to lift the leg. So up, up, up. This little pulse is straight up. Notice all that time that I was cueing, the leg was still lifted, right? Kind of fatiguing it right out of the gate. Good, keeping that lifted. Now stay here. I'm going to flex the foot. We're going to kick it forward into the resistance band ever so slightly. 1, 2, point and pull it back. 1, 2. Notice that the bottom leg and the pelvis do not change place. So it's just little presses into that heavy resistance band, trying to get a little bit of movement, a little bit of stretch without rocking the whole body. I am using this left hand underneath me here. Let's do 3 and 2. Last 1. Back through center and soften. I'm going to push into the arm, pressing myself all the way up. Let's swing it to the other side. Keeping it moving. Right? Whew. Making efficient use of the time we've got to hit it and quit it. All right. Pressing energy down into that left elbow, knees, hips, feet are stacked. You're welcome to put your hand here onto the hip or onto the floor. I'm going to stay up in my left obliques as the right glute pushes the knee out into that resistance band. If in this upright position your neck is starting to fatigue a little bit, go ahead and look down towards that elbow. Just feels a little bit different, more through the sort of the back of the neck rather than the side of the neck. Very easy here to rock this pelvis back. So think of that hip bone as pointing straight forward. towards that computer screen, then keeping that thigh, that knee elevated. Hold it there, watch your pelvis, and then pulse into that TheraBand. Keeping your pelvis and the rib wall together. Mine's starting to bow a little bit there on the side. I can feel it. I'm sort of slouching a little bit into that left waist, which is making this glute work. So the more you pull up in the left obliques, the more then it's the right glute that's doing the work. Tap it down. Now we separate the feet. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Lift and lower. Keeping that pelvis still. Good. Shoulders are wide. Good. Lift up through those left obliques. This is where I'm starting to feel it get tired, which means in my body it kind of starts to creep up here to that low back just a little bit. So I'm really going to think of the front of my body. I'm closing the front of my body here. Last one, we're going to stay in that lifted position again and then pulse up from the right dimple of your cheek. This guy, this cheek. Good, widen those collarbones. Good, woo! My leg so badly wants to turn into an external rotation here, and I'm really trying to keep it in parallel. And then tap it all the way down. Take a big breath. Woo, shake that out. Stretch. Send the TheraBand down towards the ankles. Stretch down onto your left side. My legs are forward of the body just a little bit, reaching through the toes. Remember, that leg is working already, right? We're just setting ourselves up, and he's still pressing up into that TheraBand just a tiny bit. Stack your hips, stack your shoulders, and then you're going to go up into that TheraBand and soften. Up. Sometimes here the pelvis will want to anteriorly tilt, meaning kind of like your tailbone is going to pop to the wall behind you. Really think of pulling in the front of your body. I am trying to talk to that right big toe and visualize I'm sending him away from me, from my tailbone, from my sits bones, I should say, right back here. He's going far away from my butt. Then from here, we're going to flex at the foot. We're going to kick it forward. 1, 2, point it back. 1, 2, and 1, 2, and pull. The rest of my body, I'm trying to keep really quiet because I want to be super effective and strengthen and build the heat right there in the dimple of my right glute. Closing those left obliques. Nothing else is moving. Let's do 3 and 2. Last 1. Back through center. And let it soften. Slowly press yourself all the way up. We're going to remove the TheraBand. Now it's time for your weights of choice. Hand weights or wrist weights. I have 2 pounds. So let's go ahead and come down to a tabletop position. Shoulders are on your back. Once again, just because we're in tabletop doesn't mean, or I should say quadruped, if you know that term better. Quadruped doesn't mean that we sort of lose the middle of our body again. So what I want you to do is close the vault of the rib cage. Think of your neutral or a little long low back and hold on to that position. So we're going to play a little bit with some weight change without any kind of change in the body, so in the middle of the body. We're looking here at now strengthening the shoulders. So if we sit at a computer desk, if we run, if we flex forward over the bike for whatever reason, we really, can start to droop a little bit. We're going to try to build that upper back. So I'm going to point my right fingertips out to the side, and then I'm just going to lift and lower. Shoulders are on your back. Pelvis is in your neutral. I feel a little bit of weight connecting there to my right knee. Then I'm going to kind of push into it ever so slightly to feel my weight shift into my left oblique. Think of your bridge work from earlier. We've got it. Shoulders are on our back too. Finishing that last one. Bring it all the way back underneath you. Let's reach that left arm out. Open and close. Good. Ooh, I just realized I think I was drooping my neck. I was drooping my head forward. So I'm going to work really hard actually to think of the weight of my skull is pulling back in space for 4, 3, last 2, and last 1. Bring it back underneath us. Now point your right fingertips forward in space and lift. Good. Shoulders are on your back. Do not overflex the thoracic spine. So there's a neutral or even a baby extension. So a little bit like the light of your breastbone is illuminating the space between your hands for 2. And finishing that last 1. Bring it all the way back underneath you. Left arm reaches forward. Lift and lower. Good. Do not flex or hunch back, right? Keeping the spine long. Your pelvis stays underneath you though. See, watch. I'm going to anteriorly tilt the pelvis. So my booty kind of goes back, and I've just lost my abdominals, and I actually have pain and discomfort now in that low back. So I'm going to pull my abdominals up. I'm going to close the vault of the rib cage for 2. And I'm going to think about neutral or long low back. Last 1, all the way back in. Let's take it a step further. Let's do both hands together, which means we're going to come down. Right? No way we could just free fly out there. Okay, so coming all the way down onto your back. You now probably feel the belly on the mat. That's going to give you feedback as to where your neutral spine is, or where your back is long. So let's start with those elbows bent, hands along beside you. I should say goalposts. Float the skull back in space. Close the vault of the rib cage so that your low back is long. Now this alone is work for me. Just staying back. And that's because when we flex forward in space, the weight of our body shifts forward. It's really hard to build that posterior sling and feel the head and the rib cage pull back in space. I feel my hamstrings light up just holding this position. Arms are going to lift and lower. Lift and lower. So I'm in T pose, goalpost, closing the vault of the rib cage. I am not getting super high here, but this is good for me. I really just want to build the heat in the upper back, not in my low back, right? And last 1, we're going to stay in that lifted position, close the vault of the rib cage, keep the low back long, and pulse. Pull from the spread of your back. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lift it up and then tap it down. Listen with 1 ear. Floating yourself back up through center. Circle the hands beside you as though you're going to point the fingertips towards the feet. Give me a little lift of the head, neck, and chest. Close the vault of the rib cage. I feel like I'm almost going cross-eyed staring at this mat. But notice that we're not picking the chin up. Right? None of that. Pull the center of the mass of your body back in space. Shoulders are on your back. Lift the pinky side of your hand up without hiking the shoulders to your ears. Shoulders stay down onto your back. Good. Keep the low back long. Widen your collarbones. Last 2. And last 1, once again, we're going to stay in that lifted position. Close the vault of the rib cage, and then pulse up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Stay lifted. Hold it. You're going to circle it forward for 4. Circle it back. Keep lifted. 3. Close the vault of your rib cage. And back. Good. Stay lifted. 2. Do not fall into your low back. Last 1. Circle it. And then again. Soften. Let it breathe. Hands come beside you. Press yourself back. Whew. Melt. Ooh, feel the buzz in those arms. Gently start to shift your center of gravity back over your feet. Shoulders come onto your back, lifting the weight of the skull to stack over. Whew. Thanks so much, guys. That's class. See you next time.